Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today, in episode 150, I'm very happy to bring back my returning guests, Ryan Patrick Burns, Brandon Thomas, and Frank Castle, to help us identify and expose our personal and collective shadow. Ryan Patrick Burns is the creator of the popular podcast Hero Paranormal, and he has done extensive research on the Uintah Basin and the mysterious Skinwalker Ranch. Ryan moved to this desolate and remote basin to investigate the ranch full-time, and he now owns property overlooking the ranch and continues his research. Ryan has also written about his experiences investigating Skinwalker. Brandon Thomas hosts stimulating conversations with his popular podcast called Expanding Reality, whose mantra is the expansion of consciousness cleverly disguised as a podcast. Brandon is also the founder, reality expander of Rediginal Publishing. He is committed to empowering and amplifying the voices and visions of ridiculously original authors and creators. Rediginal is the proud publisher of Expanding Reality, Expanded Insight and Episodic Reflection, Volume 001, a companion handbook to the podcast Expanding Reality. Frank Castle is a writer, producer, MC, and a founding member of the music group Heist Click, as well as a neo-shaman. He also hosts inspiring conversations with his popular YouTube podcast called Frank Castle Fearless, where he delves deep into the nature of reality. Frank's most current music project, Sons of the Sun, debuts high-frequency, futuristic nostalgia vibes back into the listening environment of music lovers everywhere. To find out more about my guests, all of the links are featured below in the description. Check us out, subscribe to our channels, leave us some comments, and like our videos. Today is part one of my 4-part Shadow Light panel series, which will be published on the third Wednesday of each month. Today we begin with identifying and exposing our personal and our collective shadow. Welcome everybody to the show. So glad you could make it. Please feel free to add anything I may have left out in the introduction. And I thought we could start by doing a bit of a go round where we talk about how we see the shadow and why, perhaps also why it's so hidden. It seems to be the last place anybody wants to look. They all want to be all in the light and love all the time. But unless we, observe our shadow and deal with it, we're only running really on half the information, and we're basically hiding something that needs to come out, and we need to be self-reflective about. So, who wants to give us a start?
I'll delve in if it's okay, because
Sure.
it's pretty important to me. As you mentioned, I research monthly up in the Uintah Basin of Utah, and that place kind of comes alive, having a property that shares a fence line with Skinwalker. And it's something that I always wondered, what is up with the darkness? And I sold some acreage to the only person I've trusted up until now to kind of be affiliated as far as the call of the research, kind of a theological call. And that is a group called Umbra Viventus Lucis, who actually incorporates a bunch of interesting light technologies, consciousness technologies. But long story short, they were basically based around some of the inner workings and ideas that had to do with Hildegard van Bingen, who was a 12th century Catholic saint who received visions from the unseen world all of her life while she contextualized them through the lens of Catholicism. But if things would have been just a little bit different, she probably would have been burned at the stake. She called the visionary state the shadow of the living light, and she was very much kind of a sorceress. Interestingly, this is something I could wrap my head around, and it kind of brought me to realize the similarities with like the mystery of St. Peter's light. And it seems like a lot of times whenever you're talking about multiple religions or spiritual belief systems, when you're standing in the shadow of something greater than you, you're in a magical place. And so that I just wanted to kick off with that.
Yeah, very good. Yes, good points.
Beautiful points. I'll pick it up where you put it down there, and you did put it down, my friend. It's a fascinating thing. Point where I'm at, Karen. You know, my thing over the past few months is Chris and I were talking yesterday on his show. It's just been dark. It's been real dark. It's been really tricky for me not to, see this place as kind of a bummer, honestly. But honestly, also I see it scaled up as just you. But it's you playing a game of how you doing with you. I don't know what the reason is, and the mechanism and modus operandi I'm not a fan of, and the way it seems to communicate with us in these scary ass, sometimes crazy ways out in the Uinta Basin. But it feels like the shadow is this, how it's described in the Bible is, Satan is described as what, an adversary, right? Not as evil. I don't think evil's mentioned. Adversary is what it is, and that entails like challenge, right? That entails something that inspires growth and that will fuck with you on the deepest levels possible because it knows how, because it's the darkest parts of you, but also it's part of you. So to banish one is to, banish the other. And so anybody telling you got to get rid of or kill this ego or this shadow or something, maybe question or, ask the right questions for that, because it is part of you. And so, but it is a challenging part to accept as part of you. And so this is one of the keyest things, right? And the best way I heard shadow work put was, it's not hating this darkest parts of your self, it's loving the scariest parts of yourself, if I said that right. So that feels like what it is more. It's just this really this place of love coming at something that's obviously terrifying from any programming standards, which we've been through the ringer, right?
Well said, well said. Frank, I know you've got some interesting insights on this.
Thank you, everyone. It's great to see everyone, by the way, and for the audience, sending you positive vibes. So the shadow aspect, when I started doing shaman work, I really put my foot on this one. It's like with when it's external all the time and then becomes internal, and you have to dig through these layers. So you're surrounded by the dark. Well, there's that light in you, let's say in your heart, or the light body, the light being. And there's layers and layers. And I've always described it as the man in stone, and he's carving himself out. It's a famous piece of art out there, sculpture. And the guy's taking himself out. That's what you're really doing. So the shadow work is breaking through these layers. It's the hidden aspects to unlock our truest selves, right? So you face the ugly truths inside of you, the reality of it, and then you kind of get an understanding of really what's happening, and the darkness, what's evil and what's dark, or sometimes two different things completely. And then you realize, wait, as source, I'm the light, but I'm also created the dark as well, because you can't have one without the other. And you're like, okay, wait a second here. And it's like, no, I'm the creator of the board. And then the guys that are playing on the board, and then the little players on the board. And you start recognizing the difference between all these different things. One of my past shows, I don't know if I've ever talked about it on this, I ate mushrooms right before I got sick. And then I was brought into the pit of hell, what we consider hell. And Satan wanted to have a talk with me. And I told the mushrooms, let's go. I'm not afraid. And they're like, no, he's not trying to scare you. There's a problem down there. And when I get there, and he said, I'm of the board. I'm written in to do these things to the darkness so you can rise. But when I pray, you showed up. I'm like, why would you pray? He's like, well, how do we defeat that? And then there was the artificial intelligence, giant story for another time. And I realized, the difference between what's really evil, what's written into the program to help you make a move, to make you rise, and actually true evil that comes from the darkness. It's hard to separate these things because we like to group them together sometimes. But as
Mhm.
you break these layers and have these realizations, you gain more you. That's the point of this. You look at the ugly fact that there's a demon in you, and now when you face the demon and put it in check, or if you face the ego and put it in check, or if you face yourself and go, ooh, I don't like when I do that or this, and you become aware of it, you become more, right? It's like you pull out the bed, and where there was Swiss cheese holes in you, you fill them with light and you become lighter. So by facing down the shadow, you just get stronger. It's a badge of honor each time you succeed. And all it does is put you in a place of betterment at all times. So doing
Mhm.
the hard work is just worth it. It's not worth doing a little bit. It's worth just going for it. Right? It's not worth trying it. It's worth doing it. Right? When you face these things, and nobody wants to face the monster in the closet. Open the closet. Show me the demon. Bring him forward, because I'm not playing the game anymore. And they go, oh, it's you. You realize what's going on. And they kind of go away. They try, they boo. I'm like, nah, that doesn't work, man. And now they ask me for help. So it just turns the whole thing around. So shamanically, people think I'm doing magic. And meanwhile, I'm just facing the hard truths of myself and coming out like this, the way I am, with these realizations. So everyone can do this. And I think collectively, it's very scary, and it's been very hard for everyone right now, is because this is the collective one.
Yeah.
We did our work, our shadow work, or we did as much as we could, maybe to this point, and now collectively it's occurring. So I did my job, so it's not going to add to that. That's why they say everybody does your individual work. It won't add to this nonsense.
Absolutely. My take is a little bit different. Like, we all have different perspectives on the same subject, and they're all valid. They're all part of the larger whole. My perspective is more psychological and sociological. So I want to show you something that was given to me by my guides. Oops, I don't know if this is going to show up. It's a sphere, and it's covered in nubs. Now, this is a model. This wasn't given to me by my guides, but the concept was. So if you take a look at a sphere covered in infinite number of nubs, and you look at the very top as being like the North Pole, and the very bottom as being like the South Pole, or you could call the top light and the bottom dark, or you could call the top good and the bottom bad. And we were only given 2 out of infinite nubs in our social construct to work with. And so we're born as babies, we're little children, and we start getting programmed right away that, you can't be bad, you have to be good. And so we're always learning from the time we're born to take parts of who we are and our thinking and our perceptions and putting them away someplace so that they're not interfering with what's socially acceptable. Now, the truth of the matter is, between good and bad, or evil and righteous, or however you want to divide it, there's infinite possibilities. And so there also, if you shine a light on this ball, you're also going to get a shadow side and a light side. And you might do things that are good, but they're for the wrong reason, and that's on the shadow side. Or you might be doing something that's wrong, but it's on the light side because it's for the good and the right reason. So I don't want to get too much into that. If you want to learn more about it, I offer a free program on my website called Quantum Health Transformation. And step 9 delves directly with using this nubby ball tool as a way of expanding your thinking and your perceptual arena. But where I want to go from that is, as we're suppressing so that we fit in to a constructed model of society, we're hiding parts of ourselves. And these become so well hidden, it's terrifying to look at them. So in my experience, the reason why I want to look at these dark shadow parts of me is because I'm missing half the information. So what happens is, when I started doing shadow work, it was terrifying. But the more I listened to my shadow self and stopped pushing it away, the more it's not so disturbing. I realize it's just information. So I may not like that part of me. In fact, I have an internal asshole. Absolutely. I don't like that Karen one bit, but I can't deny the information that she's bringing to the table and the reasons why she's bringing it to the table. It might be fear, it might be insecurities. It might be all these other things that are there for me to discover and to take a look at. So that's sort of where I'm coming from. But there absolutely is a shamanic perspective. There is another perspective like what you experienced, Ryan, with the skinwalkers themselves, the ranch, the curses on the land. And then, of course, Brandon, you've got a very interesting perspective too, where now I could have this wrong, please speak to this subject more, but there is even outside influences, invisible influences that also feed off our energy, when we're not exposing the shadow side. So for me, this is how I see it. And this is why I think it's so hidden. And I think you're all right when you alluded or said that the personal is not only political, but the personal is also a piece of the collective. So how do we change the collective reality by changing the personal reality? It's all valid and it's all super good work. And that's why I wanted to bring this series to the listeners and the viewers at the beginning of the year. Let's be fearless. Let's be courageous. Let's be superheroes in our own reality. And take a look at the shadow. It can't actually, in my opinion, cause any damage or hurt. It's just a fear-based sort of thing. Anyway, I'll zip it and let you folks, add whatever you want to this. But and again, none of us is wrong. We're all adding to a very large subject that can be looked at from many different angles and from different belief systems.
It's wild. I will pop in here since you mentioned sort of what my take is on it lately. And yeah, my take on it lately sucks ass. I'm not a fan of it. It's just where I'm at. I'm looking forward to it balancing back out. I'm looking forward to there being some sort of difference in the certainty I have for this, because the one belief I have in this reality, the one belief is that this is just a realm of temporary truths as I experience it. What I know now will absolutely change. And so anything I hold to now is going to be tougher to change when new information comes in. So I'm just in flow with it. So that's the only belief I've got. Now, with that, I've come to some new information, sans like opinion about it. I can give you my opinion about it, but this is just what it feels like, right? Is this idea that we're a food source, we're an energetic resource for something or many things in some capacity. And it blows, like it absolutely blows. And yesterday, I highly recommend, if you guys want to check it out, conversation that Chris Matthew and I had yesterday. And in that, we talked about sort of this idea of love. And he said, well, I mean, I have love. I possess love, right? Now, I've argued many times. I've taken many psychedelics. I've done a lot of ecstasy and shit. You can simulate feelings. You can simulate love. You can simulate all kinds of stuff, right? And then with what we hear from the years worth of contact experiences that we've heard about, how they can be overwhelmed. They have no free will. Their free will and consciousness is apprehended completely, and then they end up doing things against their free will, which violates stuff that we've all been promised is occurring here, like this natural law shit. Which again, this idea that this is a school, that you retain information from lifetime to lifetime, and so therefore, this whole thing to me adds up to this idea that when you plug in the idea that there's another thing occurring here, like let's say that there's this Dolores Cannon idea of the third and fifth dimension. Well, I've always kind of pointed out, hey guys, there's a fourth, are we skipping it like the 13th floor in a building or something like that? Like nobody wants to talk about the fourth dimension, but what if the fourth dimension is amongst us? It is here. It's what we're in really, but we're kind of told we're in more of a three-dimensional reality. But really, I mean, if you look at our light spectrum, what we can visibly see, what we can audibly hear, what your availability is to your sensory input around you, your faculties are incredibly limited. And with that, your consciousness is constantly, perception managed. Like your perception is constantly being managed through everything, the media, your news, all of it, right? We're all put through that ringer. And so then the question would be like, why, right? Why are you so important? Why does everybody on the planet need to be fooled so much? And what I think it is, or where I'm just at right now, is this idea that we're an energetic resource, basically, that the trials and tribulations and all the things that you go through are simply food for something else. Now, then you get to the point of, okay, well, what's the something else? And then you say, well, archons and this Gnostic idea. I'm kind of to the point to where you could say, well, what if like that's our next evolutionary step and we're actually feeding on us, which is, shitty at a level, but then it's sort of like, okay, well, what if that's the case and that therefore like this idea of sovereignty as a spirit still holds true because it's technically you that's doing it, right? And so all these dark concepts come in when you start to talk about us as a food source, bringing love into it. I would say that love has been the source of a lot of issue. If you look at it, love is great fuel for hate and fear and anger and all of the things that the archons enjoy. It's like the appetizer, right? But it's the thing that gets us lemmings to run after the little carrot on the string called love. And we inevitably fall in a hole called the trap that the archons set the entire time. And it's just this interesting thing when you look at it, because we feed cattle in the same way. We'll fatten them up. They're great and happy until the day that we need to eat them. Maybe it operates in a different way in the sense that we still are a resource, but it's this death by 1,000 cuts. It's this parasitic entity is what it feels more like to me. This parasitic thing that constantly feeds off of you. It gets little hits and pings as you go. And so therefore this place is constructed to facilitate, I would say, and be set up more for that than us. I'd say it's here just to kind of keep us happy enough to be alive, just to be used as a food source. Again, blows. I get it. It's a big bummer. I'm not a fan of the concept. It's just where I'm at because it does fill in like dark matter does. It just fills in like all of these variables. It's like duh, 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 duh. Everything, how NDEs are so subjective, how everything here is so subjective, how we can all come to completely different conclusions but be absolutely correct, how this place is riddled with paradox. It only makes sense if the mind fuckery has a purpose to it. And what it does do, yes, it inspires mysteries, but what mysteries lead to is destabilization. Your curiosity, is a fine line between that and confusion. And so like there's this interesting balance between the exploration of this realm and then this awareness that you're probably a food source for something else. And it's sort of a mind fuck right now. So my goal is to be the most unpalatable, nasty like turd on the buffet. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to touch me because my light is shining so fucking bright. They can't stand it. I shine the light on those motherfuckers. I see them. I got you, but I'm that whittled wiener in the little rack, that's rolling around. Nobody wants that thing. Just leave it alone, dude. Let's go feed on something else. That's sort of where I'm at with this. I'm just here to be unpalatable for those pieces of shit and just kind of do my thing right now and shine that light. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Oh, excellent. Well said. And very interesting perspective. And I think you got something. I think each one of us got something, which is why we're doing the panel.
Frankie, you want to take it?
I do. So, wow, the energy coming off all the different puzzle pieces today. Amazing. Okay, a couple of quick comments for Brandon. 2 timelines. You're experiencing the nasty one right now at the moment. Once again, the shadow work of realizing that 4D, 5D isn't over there. It's right in front of you. And 4D has been wrapped around us, where all these creations and things we can't see because of the light spectrum are feeding off of us. But the idea isn't that you're a resource. You're actually source. So that's why there's so many distractions and disruptions, and all this is here for me. That's what I said under ayahuasca. All this is here for me. And they were like, well, there's something you're going to choose. There's something for you here, right? I go, yeah, look, action figures. And I like to watch World Star videos sometimes of people getting beat up because I'm in the Bronx and it's crazy here too. And I like to watch it over there so it doesn't happen here. Just weird stuff, right? And they're like, look, you have to unlock, walk through, remove the mask, because under the first mask, here's Frank, and then here's the monster, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not afraid of that. You pull that mask off, there's the light body, and you're like, whoa. Now, your first time looking at the light body, you're just as scared as the first time you're looking at a demon. You can't handle the light, just like you can't handle the fear. But once you go through the fear, you never have to go through it again. And these are all fears that we threw down on the table and that we filled, as well as there are but we are so powerful. We fill 4D, that area, with thought form creations, right? That's why like people believe in the monster in the closet or some character, right? When you're like, oh, it's Freddy Krueger, right? We're all scared of him. He's under the once you face that, it doesn't get to feed off you again. The AI, when you lock it out of your system, doesn't get to infect you in your mind again. You will have to purge it, just like every heavy metal here. We're still in the 3D environment, right? And then before you know it, it's like your auric field becomes like a shield to everything, and people have to come a knocking. So yeah, so we've been eaten by the reptilians. There are clones of us that they use as a food source, and us under one of my last trips, I had to face my wife and my mother and me were taken onto a ship, and I'm like, this is so real. Like I was there, and these reptilians and this mantis creature walked by. There was cages everywhere, and they grabbed my wife first and slammed her on a table. I mean, she's little. They picked her up and slammed her down, and I'm like, these damn reptilians again, and they just started eating her. So I go, listen, guys, just take me, leave them alone. They're like, oh, you're next. You're coming. We're on to you, bro. I'm like, what? And they came in, they grabbed my mother, they grabbed me, slamming. I'm like, how is this happening? When it finished, I died instantly inside the ayahuasca experience, and immediately was in a birthing chamber, like ambiotic fluid and everything. And I was so calm and like glad it was over. And then I was born into the moment I'm living now. It was like I was reborn into it, and I came out super strong. The next time I faced a reptilian, for whatever reason, it stopped all function and discussed with me everything, because it knew what was going to happen next. They can't touch you unless you allow it. So if you're scared of it, here it comes. But if you're not scared of it, you could walk in on it and you can say, I'm not of the chessboard. You have to understand, I'm on the chessboard, but I'm not from the chessboard, right? So I've come here to let the scenario know it's going to end. Like if you were clearing and cleaning a house or a home, your internal or external, you'd have to go in and state this as fact. You'd have to feel it, believe it. So the minute I knew I wasn't a resource and I was source, yeah, you've eaten me. So here, let's make a deal. I bet you can eat me a lot and kill me a lot, but I'm going to keep coming back every single time until I'm genetically superior. And then I'm going to do the same thing to you. And what are you going to do about it? And they were like, we have no way of dealing with you on that level. So we are not prepared to do that. I said, I didn't think so. Never had a problem again. Literally never had, just your everyday life problems. I'm sure things get involved and everything. It was crazy. Other people have their demons and their things going around. So that kind of ruins it too. I live in a three-story building. As they've been doing construction, they're still doing it from the last show we did. It's like releasing the pain of the lady that lived here 102 years, and then the one under there for 56 years, and the one over here for 87 years. You're like, what? And it's just pouring out. You do psychedelics, and they're just right there. The pain and so we're surrounded by it. But the minute you call it's over is the minute it stops. Right? Like things are going to still happen. You're going to still get a flat tire. You're still going to step in dog poop. Fine. But you're also the light in this world. There's a level of you evolved that reptilians that eat you and archons and AIs, they cannot deal with you. There's a frequency that you hit like a musical instrument, bing, and you go behind like a wall. And behind that wall is your density and like your frequency match. But you're in the 3D. So if it tries to attach to you in the 3D, it cannot, because it's in that area. We spoke about this the last time. So there's two things going on. We're in 3D and our soul kind of thing that sees everything. That's the 4D space, right? And all these things are occurring. And 5D is the merging of the two to come out of this mess, but to physically be here. So in the way we'd say it in the Bronx this is where the bullshit stops, where the rubber meets the road, where we've had enough of this And now this occurs. I've rolled on demonic entities that have taken areas, giant sections of land, and would call them forward and just stand there with other light beings under mushrooms. And the monster would come out and then be like, why isn't anyone running? What's going on? We're like, dude, time's up. Dude, what? You hid down in the darkness for too long. The board is switched. You know what time it is, right? And they're like, oh, so I can reset because there's other characters waiting to be written into the program or ready to play the parts of these people or these beings. So there is all of what you're saying is true, yes. But on the higher level, it's like, well, we came here to stop that. That's the superpower part. They can't stop that part. They gave us the ability to change and manipulate our DNA. I'm a programmer, not a program, right? So I came in and got programmed, and then I'm deprogramming, redoing my neural pathways, and being like, no. I had an angel with a flaming sword attack my clients on a deck in Pennsylvania in the middle of the day. Everyone's experience was going off, and then the whole thing changed. And then all I did was hold up one of my wands. I have a crystal wand, and I said, "No, what is this?" And everything just stopped. And he looked at me with the flaming sword. I said, "Everyone I love is standing right here. What are you going to do with the sword?" And then he looks up to the sky and goes, he's not accepting the programming. And I said, I'm the programmer, bitch. You tell whoever it is you're talking to come down here and talk to me or get out of here. And the whole scenario went boom, and the sun came out. Everyone was like, dude, the clouds just disappeared. I'm like, because it's a hologram. It's all bullshit. And we're in charge. But you got to go down that road of understanding that. No matter how many times they eat me and beat me and rape me and torture me, I've come back and successfully am now here. And then, Karen, you showed that ball before with the infinite stuff, right? That's you. That's me, right? And the infinite stuff. And I'm bringing it all home. I'm the singularity. That ball is external right now, but I'm bringing it internal and remembering all the stuff. I'm healing all the trauma of getting eaten and beaten and raped, all this crazy stuff, all the bad things I did, all the bad things we all did. God, I saw this guy once, and then he was like killing in the ayahuasca experience, everyone. He was just killing everyone, and then like bad. And I was like, wow, this guy kills babies. And then goes home and kisses his wife and child, and they were like, that's you. See how much love you give your family, but because of what you do, you have to go out there and do that. I'm like, I hate this. I was like, I hate this. I don't like that guy. And they were like, you got to go hug that guy. And I had to go up to him and hug him. He started crying, and then he just went into me. And then I purged all the bad stuff, kept all the good stuff. That's it. It's all done. I could remember what he did. I don't like it at all, but I only kept the good stuff, and we keep going and we keep going. You become so powerful that this entire eat me matrix falls apart. The meat machine just falls away. Sorry for that rant.
No, that was awesome, man. I'm so glad, Frankie, that you touched on like the resurrection, the incarnation, the creation, because I think Gnostic heresy has proven remarkably durable over, the history of mankind. And something I can't shake is, and you guys probably have it too, like these shadows of past lives, like something I never used to buy into. And quick story, I used to consign jewelry from a very prominent jeweler in Manhattan called Jacob. And I would go visit Jacob, I'd get jewelry, I'd bring it to Salt Lake City, Utah, where I grew up, and consign it into jewelry shops. Anyway, long story short, I thought I was a pretty big deal, a wheeler dealer. My ego was in control. I had no spirituality. And I was going from one of those park and ride lots to my flight. And this was old school, but I ran into a guy on the bus who had kind of like, it looked like a handler. And his name was Lawrence Kim Peak. He goes by Kim Peak. And he is the real life Rain Man. Like the movie Rain Man was made about Kim Peak, this guy. And he was an American savant, but he was known as a mega savant. And anyway, he was obviously very challenged, had some issues, but his handler or whatever said he's got something really important that he wants to tell you. And he was like shaking and very motivated. And he came over to me and he says, "I know you." And I said, "No, I don't think I know you." And he goes, "Yeah, I know you, but it's not from before." And I was like, "Whoa, this is getting a little weird." The handler came over, told me who he was, explained that it wasn't just, he had this ability that if you told him your birthday, he knew, and where you were born, he knew what the weather was exactly, the temperature, whether there was moisture. That's why they called him the Rain Man. So he was a mega savant, obviously channeling information from somewhere else. And so when he said this to me, I'm like, well, maybe I should listen to this guy, even though I'm draped in jewels and this guy looks like a total nerd. No, no, that was my opinion at the time. It's since changed. And he basically, said, "I know you from before." And he explained that I was African American and that I was involved in a previous life. I was military. I was involved in a wartime scenario where our ship got hit, and I kept jumping in the water and bringing guys in. And he said, "You kept doing that." And I said, "Well, how did it end?" And he's like, "No, that's the bad news. You kept doing that until you didn't come back." So he said, "That's probably why you have so many shiny things this time around." And it just like floored me. And, the strange thing about that is, in my research and when I talk to people that are involved with the military, everybody always is like 100% sure that I'm military. And I've never even been in like an ROTC meeting. But everybody that I meet that's in the government, they're like, "Man, you have to be military. The way you compose yourself, the way you ask questions, all this stuff." And I think it's that shadow of a previous life. And I'm sure Brandon and Frankie have, sometimes you get these almost like the prism of perception allows you to get little glimpses of previous lives. And like Frankie said, a lot of times it's these people you don't like. It's these people you don't like, but there's something about them that is still with you in this existence and in this consciousness. And you probably won't lose that or shake it off, if at all, until your soul leaves your body. But I'm so glad Frankie touched on that. I think that's an epic
Yeah,
information.
it sure is. I wanted to say something about about a year ago, because my shadow work never ends. I'm always working on it. And I was really angry at, the different people who get together and do horrible things on this earth, whether it's exposed or not. Horrible things. Controlling humanity and not to our benefit. And then I realized, or I'm not sure if it was sort of a vision. I have a lot of visions and a lot of lucid dreaming, asleep and awake. So it's sometimes my reality is I don't know, different, weird for sure. I'm okay with it though. Anyway, and basically I realized that if the circumstances were different and I was born into their being, I may be doing exactly the same thing. And I had to realize that all the parts are in me. All of them are in me. It's whether or not I want to, through my intentions and my actions, want to make it so. So I know this is going to sound really weird. I don't expect anyone to understand it or even agree with it, but it was almost like I had to forgive all those people that I was so angry at. Forgive, not make it okay what they're doing, but accept the fact that they are what they are. And if the circumstances were different and I was born into their reality as them, I might be doing the same thing. And so it brought me back to working it back into the personal and the internal, and working on, my intentions and being more true that way. I know I kind of embarrassed to admit that, but that was another layer of learning that I had.
Yeah, precisely.
It's a fascinating ride, y'all. And here's one of the most interesting things about it. And I've said it on this with you here, Karen, before, is that I don't doubt that what y'all see, experience, and feel is absolutely true for anybody out there. And this is again, why I think the show is so great, because I'm not here to prove anybody wrong or me right. Like, I don't have any clue what's going on here. I'm just here to hear the stories. I love what y'all are talking about. When it gets down to the level of experience, and where it comes to what you guys experience and how you all experience this reality, I'm watching mermaids swim around in a medium in which I don't exist, right? In a medium that's not for me. And so I've done my best to hold my breath as long as I could under that water and swim in those waters. It's not for me. And so the impact that it makes on all of your lives independently has been so dramatic and so life-changing and altering, and gives you so much insight and wisdom and hope and all of the things. I live sans that. I don't have a guide. I don't dream. I don't remember my dreams. Anytime I've done a psychedelic experience, it's been pretty wild and fun, which is why I dove into psychedelics so damn hard, because I wanted to experience something. Never had the voice in my head, never had angels or ghosts or UFOs or any of that shit, ever. None of it. So a glimpse of my past lives, any of that shit. I have to be told those things, right? External experiences. I have to pop in a movie called this reading that I'm getting right now, and they're going to tell me a story that I either choose to subscribe to or not, that I don't have a conscious awareness of awakening and an ability to recall any of that, no matter how hard I try to connect. I've done this with manifestation, with different spiritual practices. Over 22 years, I've been manifesting one thing, never seen it, and I'm not going to. It's this interesting part about this reality, to where I was so convinced a lot of things were available for me. Where I'm at now is that you guys are having dope experiences out there. I don't have the shoes in which to stand in them to enjoy them. It's just because I'm not a beacon for that type of thing. And it's a fascinating thing. I don't know. Some people say, oh man, that's great. You don't dream. You shut your mind off at night and you don't get to dream or fly around or anything. But I hear that it's pretty dope. And maybe I would like to do it as a superpower, and that it is a nice thing, but maybe I'd also like to experience it at my level of boundary, right? And so I'm to this point where this reality is either going to show me something or it's not. And I'm really into this, where I'm thinking on it, just simply because I've got nowhere else to go with it. Spirituality for me looked like religion with extra steps. This faith, this idea of, well, you've just got to believe. Well, it's more challenging for someone who's never had any experience of anything to just simply have faith forever. I don't, honestly, I don't trust this fucking place. I don't trust anything that's communicating with anyone, which is probably why they leave me the hell alone. They're just like, dude, we can't deal with this, dude. They kicked me out of the UFO for asking too many questions. Like, what's that button do? What's that button do? What's the nature of reality? Like shit like that. So I get it. Nobody spiritually or etherically or anything else wants anything to do with me, and that's fine. But again, it's a fascinating world in which I'll live, and I just live here on the shore, watching all the mermaids swim from the vantage point I can see through the water at, and it's beautiful, and I love watching you guys, and I think it's awesome, and I'll hop in the water and play with you anytime. I don't belong in that reality. It doesn't welcome me. I'm not suited for the environment, is how I feel.
I think that's awesome, man. You need some polarized glasses, because I think I'm jealous. I wish I was at that vantage that you're at.
I
I think
hear this
that's,
so much, but I want to turn it on and off. I want to hop in
yeah.
your shoes for a little bit, go, holy, what the fuck? And then go, okay, that's too much. And then hop out. I want to
Yep.
go, oh, wow, I'm on a UFO now. Oh, okay, I don't want to be on that anymore. Like, where's that interface if this is all hologram and you're able to do it? I hear people like you say it all the time. Oh man, that's awesome. What a blessing. But I don't know, I mean, because it's always greener, right? You'd like my peace of mind. I don't think I have a very peaceful mind. And then I'd kind of like to see your freaky woo-woo every now and then. You know what I mean by saying that.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like I'm walking on thin ice all the time. Like I could plunge into the other side any point. But, so you're actually in a very unique position, Brandon, because you have such stable, secure footing. You're doing the exact right thing. And, I think when it comes to shadow, we know that a lot of working groups, like at the Vatican, they have a shadow council. We've all heard of like the Black Pope versus the White Pope. And this is true in just about everything. People always freak out when they come to my office because I have like pictures of angels and lots of crosses on the wall. And then on the other wall, I've got like the Baphomet. And they're like, what is going on here? And, the reality is you need that variety. You need all the aspects, the yin and the yang. You need everything for everything to work correctly, for the machine to work correctly. And we always hear about theologians and philosophers talking about the left-hand path and the right-hand path, and you better make the right choice. But they don't realize that there is actually, a third option, which is, the guy with two arms in the land of people with one arm is much more powerful. And it reminds me of, and that's kind of what you're practicing, Brandon. You're still delving in when you need to. And I think it's really important because it reminds me of, in sorcery, there's a saying that, the guy that sells his soul to the devil is no longer of any, has no worth to the devil because the devil already owns him. It's the guy that like stops in for dinner, doesn't sell his soul for the devil, but says, I'll catch you on the flip side. I'll see you again. And it reminds me of what Frankie said. Like, it's awesome. So I think that there is, this mystery of having both the shadow and the light. And most great religions, spiritual practices, even philosophies have text that talk about, these two factions that you get to the highest levels. Even if it's Freemasonry, you get to the highest levels and you find out that it's, oh my gosh, all this time there's been this shadowy aspect to these organizations. And in a way, I think it's just to balance it out, because if something isn't balanced, it ceases to exist.
Well
So
said, man. Interesting.
I totally want to just say this. Your version of the puzzle piece is so important because it grounds the scenario of us, because we're using quite a lot around us, and at this stage imagination becomes fuel, right? So it blends, just like Karen was saying. And sometimes I don't know, it's crazy. It's not crazy. When you become the singularity, that ball starts to bring those points in, and it's happening live, and you don't know. Like with me, it's ayahuasca, mushrooms, and then regular life. Now it's just, see, I don't want the silence and I don't want the chaos. I need to be in the balance, because I was in the silence for a little while. This is okay. I was reading you while you were talking. I was just giving you like I see your guides. They're there. Think about being more of a witness on a level where you're like, wow, this is occurring. All the information I've gathered, and now it's physically occurring in the 3D environment. And I'm here to witness this on this level. And then the sun's going to make it happen. But your higher self, your contract, I know these are all kind of woo-woo things, but it's true. It's true. From my perspective, it's 100% true. So it's like, you're here to witness during this time period. Everyone that's here, even the ones that kind of make it through but fail, are still here to do that. They're here to be part of it. And we don't know who's an NPC, who's not actually a light body, who's not a person feeding the environment, right? As opposed like somebody that's a gatekeeper. We don't know how many of them. Me and my wife discuss this all the time. It's like an 80-20 split, right? It's like that episode of Black Mirror where you find out that everyone around you is kind of AI-ish. And then, in Black Mirror, it was like 20 people were real, and they were living out lifetimes dating people to find the correct one. The AI promised them in 15 minutes, you'll be in and out of this place. And they spent lifetimes in there. And then when they woke up, after they rebelled against the system, they raptured. It was like, what? So it goes from jumping a fence to get away from cops to holding each other and then rapturing out and then waking up in the tube again, and then finding each other at the bar after it's all over 15 minutes later in the reality, right? So it's really like that here. So yeah, we do feed the system, right? And the object of the game, because it's a game, and to like Ryan was saying, you have a one on one wall, one on the other. You're in the matrix. You're in the chessboard. It's a 3D chessboard, right? So you have this going on, you have that going on. So I'm on the chessboard, but I'm not to be used on the chessboard. I'm actually one of the players, but I have to come down and make my moves to make sure it's guaranteed. But people are afraid of the masks they've built because it makes them comfortable. It makes them feel safe. There's no challenge. There's no rite of passage as a child anymore. We don't have any of that, right? So as people want to remove the masks, they realize that, oh, I'm uber powerful, but with that powerfulness comes this huge responsibility. If you're aware of something, you're responsible on another level for it. Like if I'm aware that my cat's got something dragging from under its tail and is running through the house and do nothing of it, be prepared to sit in shit later, is what I'm trying to say. So they don't want that responsibility. They don't want it. That's fucking frightening. The demon's scary, but that's scary. What do you mean I'm this? Now you're not comfortable anymore. Oh my God, I threw the whole thing off. Right? It's so frightening that people like my mother, who's done ayahuasca twice and who's had the most amazing experiences, 2 years later is completely 100% back in the matrix. 100%. And Aya would have to sit me down and explain to me it's not ayahuasca that does it, where it's a lifetime of battery on that brain building neural pathways of fear. Then you have to go in there and collectively unlock that. And unfortunately, there's no silver bullet. Just like when you're sick, it's like ivermectin and sometimes antibiotics on top of that, because they're poisoning you. It's not like you're getting a cold. It's like you're getting poisoned. So you have to start doing all these other things. And it's like, no, you have to change. It's got to be more than what you eat. It's got to be what you drink. It's got to be filtering the water. It's got to be turmeric for swelling. It's got to be magnesium for. So you start doing all these things and you're like, it's getting me nowhere. But you're really pulling yourself far and far enough out. And we're walking through this moment, this now moment in history, literally in the next year. I say this all the time. In the next year or two, it's over. Like the dark is gone, not 100% removed. I don't know. There's an I don't know moment in this whole thing, but we're collectively seeing groupings of people becoming cool again. Yeah. They're getting on the same page. They're rolling towards other things. The world wants something else. So we live on her. So mother's going to shake it until every rock tumbles over and every dark piece of shit comes to light. That includes inside of us, right? And then some of us are here to witness it. Some of you here to observe it from over there. Some of us to be in the middle of the crowd while it's going down. So don't ever sell yourself short on like the abilities and the powers and everything. It happens for everyone who's involved. There's no one more special than the next. It's just that I found my tool to straighten me out. It took mother to beat my ass with a shoe and then hug me and be like, it's okay, but you're not paying attention. I touched every button on the UFO. I met Toth, and the first thing I did, I looked at him and I said, wow, his human physique was jacked. And he was wearing this tunic thing. And I said, yo, what are you packing under that tunic? And I smacked him on his ass. And I thought they were going to kill me. They all looked at me like, how dare you? And I was like, bro, I'm Source. What's up? And then they were like, oh, he's a fucking clown. And then I'm like, I went from that to, hi, greetings, creator. So everyone has their moment to shine and their buttons to push. I've touched everything. I told Hanuman because he wasn't paying attention to me. And there's people like Chris Matthews and them, they understand because they've met these characters. And I'm like, ask them what I did to them because I didn't know better. So when you're judging yourself, you're like, wow, that's not as bad as Frank. I said, hey, monkey, want a banana? Ooh, ooh, ooh. And he slapped me. I was in the spirit realm so hard I woke up. And then he appeared right here in the room. He said, lesson number 1. And then just started teaching me this crazy stuff about how to get demons away from me and everything. But I still feel the slap from this day. I've never done that again. But we have to go and push those buttons. So go push all the buttons. Push them all. Push every button. If they say, hey, don't do that, do it. Right? I went up to the black goo ball that you're not supposed to say anything nasty to because it grows. And it looked at me and it said it was going to kill my cat. And I said, I'll fucking kill you. And it grew. And then it grew again when we just went back and forth. And the master, whoever that guy was, had to come over and physically shove me away from it. And then it just shrunk. You have to go do these things to learn. Gain your wisdom now because you're going to unlock in the next year or two. The sun's burping it out. This is it. This is the moment you've all been waiting for. The great reveal. The revelations, the apocalypse, it's all the same thing. We're all talking about all the same things from all different perspectives, and we got it. We got the whole thing.
I'm wondering, I have a very brief screen share I wanted to do. And it may seem really simplistic after the deepness of our conversation here, but some of the listeners and the viewers are at all different stages of awakening and understanding. And I want to have a little bit for those who want to maybe look at things from a more of a grassroots perspective. Not that there's anything wrong with anything any of you have said. Before I start the screen share, I don't want to cut anybody off. So if you had a burning desire to share anything, and then I'll do my brief screen share after that. How are you doing? Go for it? Okay. Hi guys, break time for a short message. YouTube will not monetize me, so if you enjoy my content and want to support my efforts, help me to cover my expenses by visiting my shop to buy yourself a beautiful orgone generator. Zendome's Orgonite are my unique brand, and they are ethically sourced, handmade, and double charged for maximum effect. They are only available through my website, www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com. Many people are finding comfort with Zendome's orgone generators, commonly called Orgonite. They are a simple compound which balance ambient energy by converting negative energy and EMF into positive healing energy with many easily confirmed health benefits. They are a simple compound with alchemic and energetic properties. These devices function as self-driven, continuously operating, highly efficient, negative to positive energy transmutation factories. They help diminish the harmful effects of electromagnetic frequency radiation by attracting and converting negative energies, retuning them into new and more healthful sound and light wave patterns. And they help to purify the atmosphere and accelerate plant growth. They also help stimulate positive mood and are a natural remedy for poor sleep patterns. When Orgonite is within range of any corded or wireless electronic device, it will efficiently and continuously transform that energy into orgone as it is being transmitted. This essentially creates orgone energy transmitters out of any and all emitters of harmful negative energy. You can use these devices for focusing the mind, healing, meditation, and for spiritual growth. Zendome's Orgonite are my unique brand of orgone generators, and they are only available through my website. Don't be fooled by imitations. Check out my website to see my latest selection at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com. That's KarenHolton healthcoach.com. Check them out today. Now, let's get back to the show. Okay. So this is certainly not comprehensive, guys. This is just some thoughts that I wanted to share. And in our, at least in North America, in our everyday sort of social reality, people have fallen for a template that is really not helpful in helping us to expand or do shadow work. And it's called the victim triangle. So what you have is the person who is victim oriented. And what I mean by that is, and I'll give you a micro and a macro example. A micro example might be a person who's feeling like, oh, their feelings are hurt, right? Something simple like that. Well, then there's a friend that comes in as a rescuer who wants to rescue the victim and make them feel better, as if we can't handle our own feelings or our own challenges. And so there's a looking after each other aspect to our society that doesn't necessarily suit us, because first of all, as long as this is going on, we're not coming into full power that we have control over our own lives. And then the other problem with this is if there's a victim and a rescuer, there's always a persecutor. So that means pointing over there at something or somebody else as being the problem. And the victim never takes responsibility for the problems that they themselves are initiating, or even just errors in perception. And this is called the victim triangle. Now, on a macro example, you can see this even with society, and let's say the topic of war. You see a victim class or a victim nation, and then you get the rescuer nation that says, well, we'll come in and we'll send in the tanks and we'll send in the missiles, because there's an evil over there and we need to conquer the evil. And this is what we need to do. And so nobody's really minding their own business, looking after their own shit. They're all on this triangle. So this is a really common pattern that we can see in ourselves, in our everyday interactions, as well as even on a national level or an international level. And a lot of the problems are, start off with us, and usually often through the media and the mainstream media as having a class of people or places or things as being the victim. And then there's the rescuer. And then, of course, there's the evil bad guy, the Snaggly Whiplash, who's out to get little Nell, right? And we gotta get in there and help. But I think this is a faulty template. And it often comes from the victim just feeling sad because they're not aware of their own power to come up with their own options. The rescuer often comes from a fear-based thinking. Oh my God, I got to get involved, or this or that's going to happen. And then, of course, the persecutor who's getting blamed for it. And of course, this never shows the whole story. It just gives a very superficial, simplistic kind of a pattern. Then there's a lot of anger. And so I think that if people woke up to this dynamic and recognized that it doesn't work, it just doesn't work, then we can move on to alternative ways of looking at things. So like I said before, we all have a light side and a shadow side. And no matter how often we deny this duality within ourselves and we attempt to be good people and walk in the light, our shadow side will remain, until it's faced. And we share a collective consciousness of light and shadow, as well as a personal dichotomy. So in the beginning, most of us shy away from this kind of knowledge, usually out of fear. But if we don't do this type of personal work, we can look forward to denial. And in that case, the shadow remains and is activated fairly regularly without our conscious knowledge or consent. And we don't get the results that we wish for in life, because we're always pushing it outside of our realm of who we are. And we're not embracing, that we are a total being of shadow and light, right? Then there's projection, where we're blaming others for things and we're fault finding, and our relationships fail to develop fully and they remain superficial. We get caught up in victim role playing and our relationships often fail. And then the third thing is we just fail to evolve. It takes great courage to do shadow work, but if we don't do it, we don't get to know ourselves, and this impedes self-reflection and, of course, personal growth. However, if we boldly go where few have gone before and we choose to do an honest appraisal of our whole selves, we can look forward to less denial and less subconscious sabotage, and life becomes richer and more rewarding. Without the need for projection, we no longer bully, scapegoat, or stereotype others, because we can accept folks as they really are. We will find little reason for dramatic entanglements, so relationships become deeper and more fulfilling. And finally, when we choose to do an honest appraisal of our whole selves, we take responsibility for our actions. And we're now able to engage in meaningful self-reflection and confidently make our own necessary adjustments for personal growth and evolution. Now we can truly begin to thrive and find the happiness and contentment that we deserve. And Frank, you beautifully, talked about that, where once you come into power, there's not a lot to be fearful of anymore. So with practice, shadow messages become less disturbing because now we're listening. It's almost like when we're always trying to shut out the shadow self, the messages can become quite disturbing, trying to get our attention. But when we're listening, that becomes much quieter and less disturbing and much easier to digest. And so we eventually learn to walk with and learn from our internal shadow partner, kind of light and dark together like siblings. And then, of course, the dog that you feed is the one that grows. We can now learn from the important messages from both sides, and this facilitates integration. And in truth, not one of us is truly good or truly evil. We're products of our spirit, our genetics, our environment, and our social upbringing. And light shadow integration more than doubles what we know. And it's in my opinion that personal awareness is also personal power. As above, so below, as within, so without. Part of becoming the change we wish to see in the world involves working on the inner self. And as we work with our inner shadow, we also recognize and integrate our collective shadow, and a healthier world awaits us. And I just want to recommend 2 books that I found helpful in my life for exposing the collective shadow. There's a book called The Denial of Death by Ernest Becker, and another one called Meeting the Shadow. And it's a compilation of a whole bunch of different authors and how they did their own personal shadow work. So I just wanted to throw that in there. It's a simplistic overview, but it gives folks who want to start doing more shadow work a stepping off place on how they can get started, on how they can look at it on just a psychological, social, or sociological perspective. And then, of course, from there, they will get into the broader context, the more spiritual awareness, the more educated on different things. They'll start to see the whole world as being quite different. So I just wanted to throw that out. And maybe now we could talk a bit about some of the blessings that come from doing shadow work, some of the benefits. So for instance, Brandon, you said, and please do add to this, you said that by walking in the light, it blows away, it kind of, those other energetic beings, you're not easy to feed from, so they're going to move on and feed on somebody else. Frankie, you said you recognize yourself as a creator, so you can just say, I am source, I don't have to be afraid of you, and you can walk into any environment and hold your own. So these are advanced skills, really advanced skills, but people need to start somewhere. And then Ryan, I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly what you said, how it ties into this, but I know your points were really valid too. So I'll just, again, zip it and let you folks add your own perspective. And please don't let me speak for you. I don't mean to do that.
No, this is great, Karen. And, I'm reminded of, how shadow work is involved and important in every aspect of livelihood. I'm reminded of a podcast I did with Jay Parker, who was a multi-generational abuse victim in a satanic ritual abuse family. And, he would explain how his parents, he couldn't understand how his parents, for lack of a better word, could sacrifice like a kid in front of him. And they would explain to him, well, it's not a big deal. We're actually doing the guy a favor. Karmically, this soul is going to come back. And because of all the trauma we induced, it's going to get a better shake the next go around. We're just taking care of ourselves right now. It's sort of the church of what's happening now. And it reminds me of, Constantine, who everybody falsely, well, not really, because he did it. So, and it's impressive, but who brought Catholicism and Christianity into the modern age. But people often forget that Constantine killed tens of thousands of Christians and just basically got tired. Like, he's like, these guys just, they don't care. They know they're going to come back. They're fearless. And, you know, if you can't beat them, join them. He saw something within all of the victimization of slaughtering Christians. And he said, this is totally, you know, they just keep coming out of the woodwork. Like, what am I going to do? And it reminds me that these are two opposite aspects, obviously, of, you know, the hierarchy of light and dark. But we're reminded of that very real aspect that it, regardless of our choices, we're learning something that is of value, not only to ourselves, but to the universe in general, and is honing our skills for whatever the next job description is. And we need to embrace that, whether it's good, bad, or ugly.
Sorry, I was muted. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah, it's a fascinating perspective. I mean, it's just again, it's just interesting. I think I feel energetically there's something going on. I can't put my finger on it. Nobody will swoop down in a UFO and tell me about it or anything like that. So I feel something's going on, but it leads to honestly more madness. Like, I'm over the game. Like, I'm not having fun here. I'm past the point of where, like, okay, cool, that lesson, I've broken a bunch of cycles, and the ones I haven't, I don't give a shit about. Like, I'm over it. The modus operandi of this place, like just how it functions, how we learn, how we grow, blah blah blah. Not a fan. I'm just tired, I think, is really the deal, right? And so, I feel like I walked down with a ton of faith, blind, absolute fucking blind faith for the first time in anything. So far down that path of that, this is, you know, I guess going to shake out to be something different later. And I haven't finished, you know, my last breath, so I can't say that the song's done or anything like that. It's just, I think at this point in it, and where I'm just so bombarded with the ideas and, again, the paradoxes, that I don't know that I'll believe, you know, something that comes up to me. I can honestly probably tell you that I won't. If something came up and's like, all right, look, here is the answer to everything, I'd be like, get the fuck out of my face. Like, I want all the answers, but I won't believe them when I get them. I'm at this really weird place where I have just such a distrust with this place. Again, because I see it as a mechanism of pure torture in hell. I really do. I see this as a post-tribulation, if Jesus was the thing, post-tribulation Bible scenario, to where, like, the Tataria times and the cathedrals and all that shit, we had dope technology, we had all kinds of stuff going on. We have de-evolved. You know, it's been this entropy with humanity as it goes, due to this 1,000-year, if you want to call it that, sort of perpetuation and nonsense. And I think that, from my perspective, it seems that there's a lot of consideration given to the realm in the way of, well, we're going to be better later, and, you know, things will be fixed because we give it to a higher purpose. And, you know, my guides told me, so therefore I feel all of it from a perspective of somebody who doesn't communicate and get those messages. Like, but what if they're all bullshitting you? Like, what if they're saying all that stuff so that we don't act, like, so that we remain stagnant, and that we go, oh, well, you kind of get this with the Bolshevik Revolution in the 20s, with Q, with any of these savior concepts. You brought it up, right? And to me, some folks can get deep into the savior, or into the guide idea, into the I've got connections, so therefore idea, that some people could say would be better suited as energy focus here, rather than given up to an entity that will just take care of it, kind of a thing. And again, I'm one of these people that, y'all got superpowers, like, fix this motherfucker, like, tell your guides, like, let's get them all together, tell them to come to my house, like, I'll talk to them. Fuck all, right? And so, again, it's this interesting thing to where I feel like there's a ton of ways that you can, anyone can be led down any myriad of tunnels and pathways here. And yes, they lead to growth and understanding. Yes, they're going to be challenges that you'll overcome, and we'll all be better for it. And again, the grind machine modus operandi, yeah, it's like, okay, we'll get better. I guess I'll shove my ass in this again. I guess I'll get better. Like, again, I'm sort of to the points where I'm just fucking over it, to be honest. And so with this, it feels like this heavy element of that everybody has got their story and they're pumped about it, like super pumped about it. And I think it's awesome. Like, I think all of it's so fucking cool that I'm to the point to, like, what's the point if it's not helping, if it's not, like, making physical change here? If, like, if lizard turds are still running the show, if people are having these horrible stories of getting scooped up by something, if people are still, you know, how many times the source need to know what it's like to get raped as a child? Like, what the, it's things like that I'm just sitting here thinking, if we offer it a question, does it vanish in the same way that our power makes the bad part of the same thing vanish? So it's kind of a, and again, in my perspective, looking out from out in, it seems like the same things interacting with everyone in two different ways. A good cop, bad cop scenario. They give you something scary as fuck, something trauma, vision, near-death experience, anything like that. But then they also, on the other side, present the solution to it, right? It's like this, hey, this is gonna scare the fuck. Oh, come here. And so in that, there's a full immersion in that world, in that reality, in those scenarios, those ideas, those limitations, those restrictions, those like ideas. And again, it's sort of this idea that I got picked up by a UFO, I got taken amongst the stars, and I got taken to Zeta Reticuli. Maybe, but what that presupposes is that space is a thing, that these entities had your best interest at heart. All of these things, right, were just assumed because you got a cool experience, right? And so my thing is with this, I guess my PSA is just question everything, y'all. Like, even if you got a guide you've been pumped about and y'all been hanging out for a long time, maybe ask it its true intentions, you know? And see what it says, and then determine if you can believe in that or not. I don't know, man. Because again, at a level, if we're looking at shadow, if we're looking at all this shit, and it's just you, it's just turtles all the way down, right? It's just you scalable, then it can fuck with you because there's no sovereignty issue with it. Because at a level, we're told that you subscribed to that, and that's what you signed up for, even though you have no conscious awareness of it, or you have to be told it and convinced of it. I don't know deep down that anybody that's been told, yes, I've got a mission here, can really say that's my mission, because it's probably changed a couple of times. And if that's the case, then, you know, I mean, again, this understanding of temporary truths is where I'm at. I'm very open to the idea that what I feel now and where I'm at now can change at any moment. And I'm honestly kind of looking forward to it, honestly, because it's like, if it is what's occurring, I'd like some better understanding on it. I'd like I don't know, just a meeting, you know, a phone call, something like that would be cool, you know? Because again, this outside perspective, it's challenging. It's really, really challenging to feel like some really magical dope shit is going on here, but it's not being altruistic, number one, and for our benefit, number two, directly. That's what it feels like.
So from listening to everything, I love you, my brother.
I love you back, dude. Y'all are awesome. This has been the coolest opportunity to just really
guys
open
are
up
the best. You're in the best place to be. It's thin ice. It can't get worse. It could kind of, well, yeah, it gets worse if it goes down the hell timeline, right? But it's not going to go there, because that's why I think the missions are really, they add a lot more to the mission when really your only mission is to anchor light. Your just existence being here is you doing it. That's why they're not doing it. When I went under ayahuasca, it was like early in my when I was journeying, there was what looked like a cathedral, and I was placed in the cathedral, and I looked up and I saw the pyramid with the eye. So it was like the eye of Sauron. It was very frightening. And then the walls were painted with things like angels and demons, and they looked like they were peeling off the walls and coming into the crowds, which were little lights. And then when they get really bright, they seemed to get attacked. And then when they would dim up and become like a grayer light, they were kind of left alone a little bit, and it was just pulsing, and everybody was watching what the eyeball was projecting an image on the opposite wall, which was like a movie screen, and everybody was going, oh no. So I looked at the eye. The eye saw that I was looking at it, because I wasn't standing with everyone. I was standing off to the side, and it kind of like motioned to me to come up to it. And when I went up, I went right up there. I was frightened to death, and I got up there. I saw behind the eye, there was just a bunch of people working. It was a screen. It wasn't an actual eyeball. And I realized that it was the artificial intelligence. And I walked over and I looked up and I said, there is no way that angels are stuck to a roof in a cathedral somewhere in this dimension that you put me. And they were like, oh no, I heard it in my head. Oh no, 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 look. And I turned, there was a crack right behind the eye. I talked about this on my first show. And I flew up to the crack, and the eye it tells me telepathically, you're here to make sure no one goes outside, because outside is dangerous and all this stuff. I'm used to danger. I live in the Bronx. I hung out in 108. It's the craziest place I've ever been to. I'm going to take a look outside. If there's something that's going to happen, I'll make it stop. And I looked out and saw freedom. So the cathedral was actually a trap laid by the artificial intelligence in a layer that we're passing through evolution, and it kind of set it right on top of us, right? So I'm like, wow, look at this. Nobody wants to pay attention either. So that's why they say you're not going to save anyone, because immediately I have a few things in 30 seconds. The whole thing, I want to, we all play roles in this world. Shamanically, I want to help you. I want to, as a human being and as a higher being, I'm just like, oh man, make this guy see. Oh, come on, show him what's up. This is what's going to happen. But you can't do that. I have to send you love to break through, right? So I stop playing the role. I become the observer, drop some information. You continue on your path. You get it. We break the cycles. You said this before. You break cycles. You're healing. Like, you don't know. We don't know how much damage our ancestors took. We don't know where we're from. I have a little bit more info on where I'm from specifically, and had to have healed them. But we're all in different places. So the healing comes from breaking the cycles, everything from picking your nose and the way you act in public and scratching yourself when you're not supposed to, all the way to not acting up when someone in your family at Thanksgiving dinner wants to just have a discussion and you want to be like Alex Jones, right? Like, you break the cycle. You stop doing what was always done, and you back away from it, and you just observe it and let it collapse in on itself. What you wind up doing is showing everybody by example how it's done. It automatically collapses it. Everyone goes into panic mode. Like my parents, my grandparents, everything. Oh, Christmas, it just isn't the same. I'm like, nobody wants to be here. I live here, so for me, I want to be here, but other people don't want to be here. So it's snowing, and there are people from 2 hours away. It's too much. Everyone got older, has no money, has a problem with the kids. You have to get into a realization of this is how the world is going to work. It doesn't mean there's less love. It just means we grew up and have to kind of move in a position, right? You can't expect me to fly in from Florida every time. I'm broke, right? So the cycle breaks, falls apart, and then something wonderful happens. Little groups start to form and be like, it's smaller, and I love you so much. Thank you for coming. I cooked this for you. It becomes something different. I still get you a gift. I don't pile gifts under the tree anymore. There's no more cutting down a tree. Now we decorate Galactus behind me, and my Mjolnir and my Hiss tank. Like that's how we do it. Put a little hat on the cat and let there's 12 of them. They'll look like little elves. Let them run around. Just something different occurs. It sets people out of the programming circle, and then you shatter that. You have to shatter your own, and by you not being there, you wind up seeing, or by you observing, you wind up seeing that you've been the black sheep the whole time. That's how this works, right? And then everyone will look at you, they throw hate at you and all. You just send love at them, let it fall apart. Don't engage with this stuff. Let people heal, because we've been coddled and baby for too long. The one thing I've learned from all my ayahuasca experiences is that we're just big babies. Just because we adulted out in a flesh suit doesn't mean we're actually adults. We still have a lot of right? There's a lot of fear and a lot of craziness. You have to break all of those cycles and become the observer and watch the change occur. Watch it within you. You don't have to go out there and shatter everybody's mind, just like you don't have to go out there and grab everybody's hand and save them. And you don't have to, tell everyone the truth. People don't want to listen. Sometimes you're just in a room full of football guys, and it's Sunday. They don't want to hear about space Jesus. Oh, here comes Frank, the ayahuasca guy. Nah, you just go, hey, you see what Aaron Rodgers did? Got kicked off CNN because of ta-da, and they all go, oh yeah, that's crazy. That's it that day. That's your whole day, right? It's like, man, I just dropped my seed for the day. You being here and just going through and saying my purpose. And okay, so Ryan, you being next to, I have so many questions for you, man. Oh, we're gonna have to talk, but just being next door is like anchoring down your energy, your ability to be fearless. in that scenario, which would scare the garbage out of a lot of people. See, that doesn't scare me because I've dealt with them before, the skinwalkers, right? I've dealt with them in shamanic circles. They just show up and I'm like, what is this? And I had to learn what they were because I'm learning everything from them. So yeah, there's a curve. And what are they teaching you? Man, I was around Toth for a long time. And then very recently, I did a revocation ceremony and I realized that my energy was being siphoned and I followed it back and it was to Toth's sphere that I work on, air quotes, when I'm not here. But how could I be there and then over here and then over here? Like, it makes no sense to me, even if I am infinite in all different weird places. And I said to them, I went back to the ship. I stood in my little, it was like a symbol. And I said, that's a really nice symbol. I know that's mine. And I peeled it off the floor. And he looked at me and I said, am I powering this ship? How come there's only one creator here every time I come here? And they just looked, everyone looked at me. And I said, I am powering the ship, aren't I? And they said, well, we only put one creator per sphere because it's too much power. We can't have you guys grouping up. And I just looked at them. And during the ceremony, I didn't know why I was doing this. And then I shouted it out at the end. I broke his pinky, and out of his pinky came keys. And I said, these don't belong to you. He had one of mine. I put it right in me and it unlocked me. It turned green. I was like, what's happening? I had gold pouring into me. And then I said, you did this. And I took a whole bunch of them and light beings were coming to me, taking their key back. And I said, I learned so much from this guy. Like, I learned a lot from Tahute, from every layer and every level. And still, the great scumbag occurred. We're powering his ship. Now, even on my level, that sucks, right? So that's why I'm here. Well, I'm out. Have fun powering your ship now. Like, I'm not coming back either. If I come back, it's to be like, hello, goodbye. You better not have anything on this ship that's not cool either, because then it's my ship. See how this works? Like, you got to build into that magic. Become unbreakable, unshakable. Become fearless. Look under every stone. You wonder why you're doing something and why life is always treating you a certain way and why it's always showing up the other way. Don't spell cast it. I'll believe it when I see it. You can't do that. You'll never see it. You'll never see it. The magic here works as you, the creator. You have to say to the program, I'm ready to see it. Show me the magic, because I am magic. It's me. And then magic's a weird word. So just encompass everything in it and just feel better about it. It's a lot of times technology you haven't caught up to, both physical and spiritual. So when you see it, because you're in a hologram, you get to understand what manifestation really is. You're not really building it out of thin air, even though you are. You're using the molecules around you, but this isn't real. You're not in a real place. You're in a hologram. So your consciousness is so strong, it's just building it out of the materials that are there, because that's all the materials it takes to create anything that you would absolutely need. And I know that just sounds weird, but there's all kinds of science. When you're not looking at it, is it even there? Is it activated? Are birds even there? Do they fly on the wires and charge? Is the earth flat? And do we have antennas there's all different kinds of theories and everything, but none of it's real. All that's real is you. Right. And then we take this information and share through our experience to try to level it up through a fear-based system that wants nothing more than to hold us down and use us as energy siphons, like you said. But we're passing through that layer. What happens when we pass that layer? No more energy siphon. They stopped that energy siphon stuff with me. You have to forcibly do it. In a holographic scenario, it's a command key. So if I was saying to you, stop it, and you're like, no, and you're poking me, and I'm like, yo, stop it. Now, obviously, I don't mean it yet, because even though I'm in my head, I'm like, I mean it. But to you, you're like, I don't mean it. I command you to stop. Boom, it stops. It's got to be intent. You got to be grounded, and you got to believe in you. You don't have to believe in the system. You don't have to believe in none of this shit. Nothing's real but me. Then you listen to me now. You're all here for me. There's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing selfish and weird about that. It is what it is. It's a program. Input code name, fearless. Let's go. and then start injecting it back into the system the other way. Show the system that you mean it. The system of the greater hologram, not inside this matrix, is meant to work with you. That's nature. Nature is actually meant to work with you, not against you. So that hologram that we would share in 5D is just meant to work with you, but it's around us now. So if you shatter the matrix in you, you can access that through the crack, because that's what you did. That's the part that everybody puts a crack and then takes a piece off the roof as they leave. And then this whole thing comes down. That's it, plain and simple. So you're connected as the greater whole. So you can control all that stuff. You have to want that. You want the responsibility of it. That's why I'm saying you're in the best place. You're in the absolute best place. And Ryan, you're locking in the highest energies and the fearlessness right next door to the craziest things ever. Right? Karen, you're bringing us all together to show how this all works. I'm just offering from my perspective, my shamanic views on the whole scenario. You're getting a taste of the whole thing. We're giving the world everything it needs right now. Right? Because the end of the conversation is none of this matters. What matters is you. And as you do your stuff, yeah, it'll bring you up and it'll bring you down. There'll be magic. There'll be no magic. But you're going to learn to transform, because it's the evolution. They're not going to stop the evolution. My contract to come here is just to be an ambassador for Gaia, for Mother Ayahuasca. I'm with her no matter what. So when everyone's like, oh, this and Toth and Ra and this and that, she's like, if you weren't born here, you got no say. Period. Everyone has an agenda, but did anyone ask me? So she spawned beings like me. She brought me here, and she's like, no, you're going to talk for me. You're going to let them know. My job is going to be to make sure the land that I am on, wherever I stand, is clean and clear. Period. Right? Some days I go for a walk, I do little mantras. No demons will be able to, because there's people walking everywhere. And throw this into practice. No demons will be able to interfere with me today. Every demon that lays eyes on me will have to bend and move from my path. And you mantra it as you're walking, and you'll see people at the bus stop. There'll be 100 people, and they'll just break into a sea out of the way. And then other people just wink right at you like, go on, my man.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, whoa, this is crazy. So it's all you.
Yeah. Guys, we're quickly running out of time. I don't want to cut you off though, Frankie. So if you got more to say, you go for it. Same for you, Brandon. Same for you, Ryan. But I'm wondering if you want to just give your last thoughts, and where can people find you, and what are your offerings? Tell people about your websites, your YouTube channels, whatever you're publishing, everything, so that they know. And of course, I just want to remind the listeners and the viewers that all the links will be in the description below. Ryan, you want to take it away?
Yeah, I can take it away. Last thoughts is, nobody really hates the human condition, more than I do. It is something that I've fought against ever since I was a child. It seemed like a bum deal, and the whole mortality aspect is something I didn't buy into. That was something I didn't only just regrettably argue against, didn't want any part of. Like I said, I've fought against it philosophically since I was a child. But I'm always reminded of Gandhi and his quote, if I can read it really quick, because it is a machine, Brandon. You're 100% right, and it sucks, and it's got a lame ending, no matter what our story is. But the best we can do, in my opinion, is be a perfect tool to be wielded against that which we dislike. And that is what we're honing our abilities for. So anyway, there's this quote by Gandhi that goes a lot in line with what Frankie said. And it says, whatever you do in life will be insignificant, but it will be very important that you do it, because you can't know. You can't ever really know the meaning of your life, and you don't need to. Every life has a meaning, whether it lasts 100 years or 100 seconds. Every life and every death changes the world in its own way. You can't know. So don't take it for granted, but don't take it too seriously. Don't postpone what you want. Don't leave anything misunderstood. Make sure the people you care about know. Make sure you know how you really feel, because just like that, it could end. And with that, I'll end. And you can catch me at heroparanormal.com, spacewolfresearch.com, or you can purchase my books at ryanpatrickburns.com. And thanks so much for having me on.
What a badass, man. I'll go ahead and go. That was awesome, dude. Yes, and so I love the empowering message, because you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's a fucked up place. Yes, but to see it as that and flip it off and to do the robot while farting at it, that's where I'm at. I'm at this absurd point to this place where I just don't take it seriously. I'm having a blast. I'm flipping these things off like I don't give a shit, right? And so it is this freedom on the other side of the darkness. And so that is really what I'd empower folks to go through the dark for, to visit your shadow for, because you see how full of shit it is, to be honest with you. Like, it is so full of shit. It can only whisper in your ears. I know people have talked about here, it can only ask you to do things. And the one thing I do communicate with is a mind parasite. I don't trust anything my fucking head says. And I think that that's one of the best things that came out of this, as well as this idea that I can't trust what's going on up there. So, okay. And so the empowering part about this, again, is to see the absurdity in it and to not offer it any fear, to not offer it anything. Yeah, I see you. I see you. Yeah, I see the temporary chains I've got, but man, they're temporary. And this is the path in which I've chosen to see this place lately. And I feel my goal, has always been to give people back to themselves at a degree, but really it's to sort of shine the light on this bullshit that's going on here lately. And maybe that plays a role in my ultimate mission. But other than that, things are going awesome. Like, I've never felt more empowered. Life has never been better, to be honest with you. So if this is a prison planet, me telling it to go fuck off has been the best thing that I've ever done, because things are really, really picking up. We have our first event we're doing in May. It's a befriending Bigfoot event in Georgia. It's going to be awesome. Do have the publishing house. We have a bunch of new journals coming out. I'm working on these things all the time. So those are coming, and everything can be viewed at expandingrealitypodcast.com soon. We're redoing the website completely. Right now, you guys can find me, anywhere you get podcasts, YouTube, Rumble, Rockfin, Patreon, all that kind of shit. If you want to sign up for the Patreon stuff, we're doing hangouts like at least 1 or 2 a weekend, man. They've been awesome. And we're doing live recordings of episodes and then Vibe and A's after. They're way cooler than Q&A's for sure. So all of that to say, this has been an amazing conversation, Karen. I can't thank you enough for the group that you put together. Ryan, thank you so much. Frank, always a fucking pleasure, man. I love you guys so much. This is interesting and fascinating to just go deep with this kind of stuff and to really ask these kind of questions. Because nobody's talking about the Packers here, right? Or whatever. But love y'all very much, man. This has been awesome. Seriously.
This is I'm noticing, just when I'm at the height of my little ego, right? We're all in our little bubbles. I go through all these experiences. No matter what I go through and how fantastic it is, it never comes through that when I meet with other creators and they tell me what their knowledge is and what my knowledge is, I just sit and I'm blasted back into the fact that it's not only I am, but it's we are, and we have the puzzle pieces and we're putting them down. And it's like we have the tools and we have the talent. It's one of these most beautiful things. We come together, we recognize it for what it is. We become aware, we take the responsibility, we walk without fear into the next now moment. Keep it simple. Challenge your thoughts. Challenge every thought. Challenge everything. Touch everything you got to touch. What is this? How does this work? Why does it work that way? I want to know. Okay, you might not get the answer now, but you're going to get it. You're going to get something. Keep pushing those buttons and those issues. You find when you shut off your TV and you just talk to people, look at how much more in common, even though we're from 4 separate backgrounds in 4 separate places in this planet. And look how much we really have in common. Way more than what they say about anything. So just go forward. Be fearless. Remember, the universe rewards bravery. Karen, Ryan, Brandon, thank you so much. You could find me on YouTube right now because the website, I'm upgrading mine as well. I just took it offline so I could work on it. It's my first time doing this. So you could just find me on YouTube at Frank Castle Fearless, or at Fearless Tribe, and at Sons of the Suns if you want to hear some really high frequency, futuristic, nostalgia type music. Thank you so much for having me. Everyone, positive vibes to you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Ryan, Frank, and Brandon, I love you so much. I have just really look up to you guys. You're just amazing. You rock my world. I love you so very much. Thank you so much for being here. And I also want to thank the listeners and the viewers. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please like, comment, leave us a comment, share this with your family and your friends. And I appreciate you all so very much. So we'll say until next week, bye-bye from the Quantum Guide Show. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Check out my website at www.karenholtonhealthcoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.